Your act of terrorism resulted in the murder of 51 people and the serious wounding of 40 more. You committed mass murder. You slaughtered unarmed and defenceless people. You maimed, wounded and crippled many others. Your victims include the young and the old, men, women and children. Your actions were inhuman. You deliberately killed a 3-year-old infant by shooting him in the head as he clung to the leg of his father. The terror you inflicted in the last few minutes of that small child's life is but one instance of the pitiless cruelty that you exhibited throughout. There are countless more examples. You showed no mercy. Other children were present. A 2-year-old boy was shot and a 4-year-old girl was another of your victims, as were the elderly. Wounded people who were incapacitated and unable to escape were dispatched by you in cold blood, often at point-blank range. You shot people in the back and ignored the pleas of the wounded to be spared. You advanced on them, stood over them, and viciously took their lives. Extremist beliefs and ideologies that seek to promote violence and hate are anathema to the values of acceptance, tolerance, and mutual respect upon which our inclusive society is based and which this country strives to maintain. Your crimes were met by an unprecedented public outpouring of love and support for the people you targeted and the wider Muslim community. Your design was to divide, but the public's response was to stand with the people of their community, with their fellow New Zealanders, to demonstrate their unqualified repudiation of your hateful agenda. You failed. To my observation, however, you remain entirely self-absorbed. You have offered no apology or public acknowledgement of the harm you have caused. There is little to indicate that your pleas denote any deeply held sense of remorse for your victims. You are particularly distressed at having caused such terrible grief. Having given the matter much consideration, I am satisfied that no minimum period of imprisonment would be sufficient to satisfy the legitimate need to hold you to account for the harm you have done to the community. Nor do I consider that any minimum term of imprisonment would be sufficient to denounce your crimes. The nature and circumstances for your offending, unprecedented in this country, are such that I consider the requirement that you serve your sentences of life imprisonment for murder without parole on each of the 51 charges of murder, charges 1 to 51. You are sentenced to life imprisonment. I order that you serve the sentences without parole. On each of the 40 charges of attempted murder, charges 52 to 91, you are sentenced to concurrent terms of 12 years imprisonment. On the charge of committing a terrorist act, charge 92, you are sentenced to life imprisonment.